Oh, it's 2024. We are starting new channel. Matthias is the same. Tool Talk. And yeah, welcome, Matthias.
Yes, very happy to be here again. Happy New Year to everyone who's
Happy New Year.
joining and listening in. I hope everyone's had a good holiday and started the year with lots of new resolutions. Well, we've got freezing temperatures right now. I hear it's quite similar in Germany as well. So yeah, I hope everyone is staying warm.
It's okay. It's like about 0 in Cologne.
Yeah, my mom told me about -10, but she's a bit further east actually. So yeah, definitely freezing here. And I've just had some winter sun last week, so I really noticed the difference.
Okay. Yeah, it's yeah, but still quite uncommon. Cold, but okay. So we can stay more in front of our computers and learn something new about enterprise development. And yeah, I think we have a lot to expect this year in terms of CI/CD and all the support from Microsoft. But today you told me you want to deep dive on PBI Explorer again.
pbi-tools actually.
pbi-tools. It's so much of tools now.
Yes. Yeah, very true indeed. There's lots to be expected later in the year, but many things from Microsoft, but many things we can't quite discuss yet since they're not in the public domain.
Always.
But if you remember, we had a dedicated TMDL session end of last year, and we were doing a little bit of a sort of history trip, right? Looking at various TMDL updates. I wanted to continue that theme a little bit, and we also have a completely brand new pbi-tools release. I haven't published it yet, so it's like
brand new.
Yeah, straight out of the oven. To show with some exciting additional TMDL support in it. Let me just share my screen and we can look at some new stuff.
Really looking forward to this, and it's untouched, brand new. So yeah, everyone show.
Right, so hopefully that does it.
That's it.
Here we go. So just looking at the GitHub repo we were talking about last year, I've updated it. In fact, we've actually had 2 new TMDL releases since. Guys at Microsoft have been busy. As you can see, we've had a release on the 4th of Jan when I was still on holiday. So one came out last week. In fact, it even brought a new compatibility level to TOM, the Tableau object model, 1606, which introduces an additional property on model. But it also has TMDL Preview 9. If you remember, in December, I said that December was meant to be the very last and final big update for TMDL. This one has a few minor and hopefully very last changes, which didn't quite make it into December. So it should definitely be extremely stable now. So let's just have a quick look at what we got here. It's quite easy with this repo. Just need to go to the latest commit, which basically shows us all the diffs between preview 8 and preview 9. And there are basically just 2 significant ones. One is, I mean, this is very niche. the translations property in the culture document no longer has a colon, just to make it consistent with wherever else we have similar structures. And the other thing is, for roles, we now have role members showing up below the permissions as opposed to above the permissions. So really minor things, and it's just showing that after sort of a massive pile of changes in December in the last release, it's now truly stabilizing. Okay, cool. So that's that. And the thing I wanted to show today is the corresponding pbi-tools release, which again, I haven't quite published yet, but that should happen either tonight or tomorrow morning. And that one has two things in it. First of all, support for the latest Preview 9, but on top of that, I actually added a few features which allow people to fine-tune and control in a finer way how TMDL output is formatted. And let me just show you what that looks like. So if I go here, I've got a PBIX file with a sales, with a thick model called sales, and looking at the pbix proj.json file, which is a pbi-tool specific configuration file. We now have this setting. So basically, inside settings and model, we now have formatting, which is new, and that's here in conjunction with new TMDL specific formatting settings, which were released back in December. So they didn't actually exist before December as far as the TMDL API is concerned. And now pbi-tools actually gives you a way to control and take advantage of those settings. And there are 4 different settings, basically. You can control the encoding. You can control how new lines are formatted, Windows or Linux. And you can control the indentation mode, so tabs versus spaces. And if you use spaces, you can also control the size, which is basically a number of spaces for each level. So that's that. And then the other thing I've added is this is something only sort of existing users of pbi-tools are familiar with. So pbi-tools for a long time has had the ability to declare for certain annotations to be excluded or included when serializing. And that has always been quite useful in terms of cleaning up certain Power BI desktop specific annotations and not have them clutter your repositories. And when I switched pbi-tools to TMDL, that support for annotations cleanup was no longer in place. In fact, there's an open issue where someone actually mentioned that a few months ago. So that's actually come back now. So the annotations exclude and include settings can now be combined with TMDL. And let me just show you what all of that looks like in practice. Let me just so we can see how things change. Let me do. Let me put a git ignore in here, and ignore the pbix file we've got in place. And then let me also create repo, and let me delete all of this. Right. Okay. So second thing, I'm just gonna pull this window across, and I'm gonna run pbi-tools extract on this particular file with no settings in place. So this is the default we're getting out of the box, right? And again, that's a thick report, so it's going to extract the report as well as the data model, which means inside model, we're getting a TMDL representation of the model because TMDL is the default as far as pbi-tools is concerned. And if I commit that as the default, we can then use that in order. Sorry, there we go. We can then use that. So let's call this default pbi-tools extract. Here we go. Right. And so now we can actually have a play with this. And I'm going to just copy this so I don't have to remember it all. Here we go. So if I now go into the generated pbi proj.json that's inside my extract folder and basically paste in settings and make sure it's nicely formatted, I can now begin to actually take advantage of those various settings in here. So let me just put a few things in here. So let's do indentation mode spaces with a colon, obviously. New line style, let's keep that as this. Let's keep 2 here. Indentation style only applies to spaces, not to tabs. And then here, we're going to be able to see the impact of that because this model actually has an annotation which is __TDR equals 1. So this is a tabular editor annotation that is injected whenever tabular editor is used for any modifications here. Let's say I didn't want that in my source control. One way to achieve that would be to say annotations, exclude, and then I'm using a wildcard here. So that way I don't have to remember how many underscores there are. So with this in place, and basically in place of the project file that was generated, if I now rerun my extract, it will actually pick up those settings and then apply them to the extract process. And we're going to see all those settings applied. So let me just go back here. Extract. Here we go. Right. Cool. So, and because I put this under source control before, we now have a nice diff that actually shows us how things have changed. So first of all, we can see that, as I said before, this particular annotation is completely gone because it's now been excluded. And just to explain what's happening here, this is pbi-tools actually going through the model and actively removing any annotations that match that pattern, right? The other thing we can see is where previously I had tabs, because that's the default, I now have spaces. And in fact, I've got 2 spaces because 2 is what we specified for indentation size. If I put 20 there, I would get 20, right? And would look a bit weird, but it's supported. So that's one thing. And we basically have changes showing up in every single document now. because of the indentation settings, right? There shouldn't really be anything else. So we've got that, and we can also see how every single document I'm looking at is UTF-8, which is the default. So if I go in here and actually say UTF-16, just for fun, and if I go in here and say tabs instead of spaces, and then rerun the whole thing, we're going to see that most of those changes will be reverted because, so let's just wait a second. Yeah, I don't know why they're still showing up as changes. Sometimes Git is a bit funny, and normally you get rid of that if you stage them. Oh, of course. Yes, no, that is expected. And why is that? Because I obviously changed every single file to UTF-16, right? So we can see that down here, which is also quite interesting because that's completely invisible to the human eye, right? So those files do show up as changed, and they are changed in terms of the binary content. But unless your text editor tells you which encoding is used, you wouldn't know. And so that was a pretty good test. So even though everything has gone back to tabs now, we still have a difference because it was UTF-8 before and is now UTF-16. So which means if I change that to UTF-8 and do another extract, I should now actually have all of these files disappear because they're no longer changed as far as Git is concerned, right? The only change we have is the annotation, which is still removed. Everything else is actually as it was. So as you can see, it's really cool that the TMDL API actually has all those capabilities now, but even more so, you now have pbi-tools to actually leverage those settings as part of your project settings without being limited to the API, because the TMDL low-level API is the only way you can currently access those settings. Anything else to say here? Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, that's pretty much what comes to mind here. There are two more settings which I also introduced. However, they are much more difficult to demonstrate and they're much more niche. And I need to look up what they're called. So one is, there we go. So one is exclude children metadata, which is true or false. And then the other one is include restricted information. So I'm showing that just for reference. So those are additional TMDL serialization settings, which were introduced to TMDL in December. Restricted information, that refers to basically credential information. So if you have so that's very niche. If you have a model with legacy data sources where things like passwords and other secrets might be exposed as part of the model definition, with this set to true, those would actually be serialized. With this one set to false, which is the default, they will not be serialized. So again, it's all about control here. And children metadata, this is about whether child objects should be serialized. So a child object is basically something like, if we go to a table, column happens to be a child of table, right? And annotation is a child of column. So I can't really think of a practical use case where you would ever want that, but it is here. It's available, and I'm sure some people may well come up with a use case for that. So just for completion, this is the complete set of formatting and serialization related settings that is first of all available in TMDL and secondly exposed via pbi-tools now.
Awesome. And when I see then someone like you already adjusts the pbi-tools to this version, I would maybe think that TMDL is close to GA, but it's just speculation. You have not told me anything, so I'm still looking forward what comes next, and yeah, in the next releases and all this stuff.
Yeah, we're not. I mean, traditionally there is no Power BI desktop release in January. So that's always been the case, right? Power BI desktop only comes out 11 months a year, so next one Feb. So there's everyone needs to be a bit more patient for the next drop of Power BI desktop. But well, we'll have to see what happens and when. I do hope the tabular editor will be updated soon. I'm already talking with Daniel, who has quite a few other commitments right now. But I do hope that he will update tabular editor to the same version of TMDL, because we also saw a few people running into troubles previously when they were using both tools in conjunction, and when the tools didn't actually use the same TMDL version internally, it could be problematic. So yeah, with this one, the one that was just released last week, I think everyone can be fairly, let's say, can feel fairly safe in terms of what their TMDL outputs look like.
Yeah, fantastic. And yeah, we're moving closer to more and more supported CI/CD stuff for pros, and yeah, pbi-tools will be still supported in the future. As for anyone who was hesitating, because there were not a lot of updates in the second half of last year, but now the Power BI tools are updated again, and they will be supported.
Yes, and I can announce also there are two main areas which I'm going to be working on as far as pbi-tools are concerned. One is PBIP support, so that's a developer mode, and the new format that basically gives us a Microsoft-supported way of also serializing report sources. And the other one will be support for new Fabric items APIs. So that's a really exciting topic as far as CI/CD is concerned, allowing us to basically take artifacts in PBIP format and push them into Fabric workspaces or download them from Fabric workspaces. Very, very powerful APIs, and people barely know about them. So there has been very little in the public domain in terms of announcements even. I realized that even within the MVP community, which is quite interesting. So that's definitely an area I'm going to focus on moving forward, because it helps as far as the CI/CD story is concerned, but it's also a very powerful piece in the whole Fabric ecosystem.
So still lots of things to do, and APIs are actually official from Microsoft, and this is just a way to use them in a more comfortable way than code everything by yourself. Just use these tools. And so as you told, tomorrow we will have this this next release with
Yeah.
the next step of TMDL. Thanks for presenting, Matthias. And yeah, do you have anything to announce, to tell about upcoming events? When do we can meet you? Can you say something about the near future, what you're allowed to say, actually?
I've got a few events in the pipeline and confirmed. Sorry, I should have prepared for this,
Okay.
because some of them
No
I
problem.
know about, but you're not meant to put it in the public domain yet. So apologies, but I don't want to announce anything that I shouldn't at this point.
Okay. Yeah, I already noticed, for example, the Power BI cruise, where you're
Yes, but that's
co-presenting
not.
with Microsoft.
Yeah, but that's not until June. So yes, absolutely,
Yeah.
that is
It's
confirmed.
just
Something I'm
an
looking forward
announcement.
to, but it's quite a few months to go
Yeah.
still.
Of
But
course, there
there are
will be.
definitely other things coming up in. Actually, I'm going to Munich, Data Saturday Munich in
Oh yeah,
February.
yeah. I will be there too.
23rd, I believe, 22nd or
Yes.
23rd.
How I could miss this? I will be there too.
Yes,
Great.
so that's exciting, and always love going to Germany, of course. And
24th of February.
there we go. Yes.
Yeah.
And MVP Summit, I'm definitely confirmed. Excited about it. Will be my first one, my first MVP Summit. Don't want to miss that.
Okay.
And yeah, let's see. There are definitely a few more things in the pipeline.
Nice. Okay, then thank you again for being here, and see you next time, Matthias.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. And thanks.